Imagine, if you will, you're walking through the streets of Huddersfield, a town in Yorkshire, on a dark November night. But the air is thick with wood smoke and the scent of mead, and the calls of revelry and drunkenness that hasn't been heard for many centuries. And yet, also, you get the sense of a shadow, a monstrous shadow, following you at every turn. And it tickles a memory of monsters from ancient myth and legend. In 2023, this was the very real experience for a whole audience who attended Huddersfield to witness an epic promenade play. That is, a play without a fixed stage, a play that meanders through streets and uses different buildings, that brought the epic of Beowulf to life in a way never seen or done before. Today I am joined by the man who provided the musical heartbeat of that journey. Musician Howard Jacobs is here to tell us how he used sound to bridge the gap between ancient myth and a modern Yorkshire town. Welcome to the Valhalla Conversations podcast, and this week's guest, because I genuinely don't have a scheduling pattern, I just put them up there as soon as I can, is a man I've been following for some time and have only just managed to get my claws into Valhalla, my virtual hall, and he's Howard Jacobs. Welcome to the podcast, Howard.
Thank you. Thanks, Becky. Nice to be here.
Oh, I have been itching to speak to you for some time, as we both know, because you have a very special role and indeed a very special connection to my particular over the world of Huddersfield, because 3 years ago, back in 2023, dear viewers, it feels like a lifetime ago, but it was only 3 years, there was a very remarkable live promenade performance. So there wasn't a stage as such, people actually moved around through buildings, through town, and it was of the epic of all epics, Beowulf. Would you mind telling us more, Howard?
Not at all. Yeah, I mean, it ends at a stage. It sort of has several staging posts, but it began in Byram Arcade, which is just quite a grand, multi-level arcade with balconies, and then it had a procession, a funeral procession for it was King Healfdane that went down to the church. So there were road closures across one of the main junctions, down to the church, where it was kind of set out, intended to be a bit like a mead hall, but the stage was running down the middle in between these raised pews either side, with a choir in the balcony there and several bands at the front of the stage with extraordinary musicians in. Yeah, it was quite a complicated show, brilliantly put together by Proper Job Theatre Company, by Jamie and Chloe, who alternate between producing and directing shows between them. And I'm so pleased that somebody involved me in it, because Chloe asked a friend of mine, do you know anyone who's into who could make a Viking band? I need a like Viking music for this procession as part of this show. And so he said, yeah, I think I do know somebody. And I remember years ago her saying to me, I think I've got a job for you, and that weird horn that you go around playing, which this thing here.
Oh wow.
And I was intrigued, but she didn't tell me any more for a while. And then I got a call from Chloe, who I actually know from other circumstances, and she said, I didn't realize it was you, and can you do this thing? And I realized it ran across my 50th birthday, and as an artist and musician and someone who's not socially shy, but maybe shies away from social events quite a bit. But there's nothing I'd rather be doing on my birthday than actually performing. I'd much rather be doing that than in the pub or just being in the pub. We went to the pub afterwards, but it was so exciting to be involved in. And even though I was initially engaged just to put together some kind of Viking band with some music, the work I did initially and presented in the early rehearsals was received so well that they immediately said, "Can you be in the whole show? Can you ask? We'll find some more money. Can you ask your band if they're prepared to be in the whole thing?" So we ended up not only leading the public and the crowd through the streets of Huddersfield to where the main performance was going on, we entered in and got onto stage with Viking instruments and played and soundtracked the whole show with the other musicians that had already been engaged, which were already a really interesting group. And then we led the crowd out again when Beowulf is killed at the end. There's a funeral procession for Beowulf as well. So yeah, it was incredibly exciting. I met, as well as creating the band and the music that we played, I ended up making a lot of the props for the show, some of which you can see behind me. And I ended up because there was quite a big production. I know I had a particular interest in I'm interested in design and style, so I just said, look, I'll do the costumes for my band because it's already an add-on to the job of the costumer. So I really enjoyed creating and providing the costumes for our 5-piece band as well. So I went from just being composer, band leader to basically I took it as an excuse and my own personal birthday present to myself for being 50 to stop doing everything else in my life and spend 2 months making stuff in leatherwork and woodwork, making shield. I made a dozen Viking shields and made all the swords, Sayax props, and made some of the instruments, made a Viking wrangle, researched Viking instruments that we know about, Norse instruments, and tried to create the music that we used around what we knew about instruments that existed in that area at the time, as much as I could. And some of that involved making instruments, and it was very exciting. And somebody said to me, actually, I think it was Chloe, said to him, "Could you don't do things by halves, do you?" And I just thought it's a thing that people say, but it's quite an odd thing to say, because when you think about it, why would you do things by halves? You either do it properly or don't bother, you know. And that's my approach to things as an artist anyway. I think I just I do immerse myself in something and relish the opportunity to do it. So this was it was very exciting indeed, and I think because everyone in that production took a similar approach to me, it took it to a next level. It made it really special, you know.
So you got approached by Chloe to form a Viking band. Did you already have a few musicians, friends, colleagues in mind to recruit into your band? Or did you have to have a bit of a selection process, interviews, auditions?
No, it came together pretty quickly. I guess I thought about the instrumentation in the context of, like I said, what we can know about instruments that were around at the time. So these instruments, they look quite different, but basically the same thing. They're just it's a tube, a wooden tube. So in Viking, in Norse culture, it's generally known as a lur, L-U-R, and there were I think the remains of lurs have been found, and in Norse culture, the ones that found that they were generally, rather than being completely hollowed out, there were two pieces that were then strapped together with metal clamps or some kind of clamp, but essentially, to our modern eyes, it's like a short didgeridoo, really. So I immediately engaged two trombonists, one of them being the person, Sally Edwards, who recommended me for the role of a band leader for this anyway, and she definitely wanted to be in on it. And also Biff Roxby is a really excellent trombonist. And then I was looking at the Tal harper or Talgal harper, which is ancient Norse, and it runs down into the Balkans as well. I think it's a very old violin type instrument. I don't have any of our T harps here, or we shorten it to T harp, or the Tal harper. They're all with our violinists. So I'd recently started working with a brilliant violinist in a different band called Laura Boston. Laura Boston Barber. She's in Blackbeard's Tea Party. It's like a pirate folk band. She's an absolutely stunning performer. Just met her quite recently, and I said, do you want to do this thing? Can you squeeze it in? And I'm going to get a Tal harper. We now have 3 Tal harpers. I'm having a 4th made at the moment, because we'll get onto that. The band itself was only initially created for the show, but we had some fun with it. I intend to take it on to do other things. So so there were the Lurs, the Tal harper. She took to that instrument so brilliantly, because it's got no fingerboard like a violin, let alone like a guitar. You have to fret, you have to make the notes in midair. The strings are just there's no fingerboard behind them.
Interesting.
So we had the Lurs, the Tal harp, and then we've got ram's horns, and also animal skin drums. So that's how it started, and the vocals that we used we used ancient Norse, and texts from the Wisdom of Odin. So that was the first where the first sketches started. And when we actually were invited to be part of the full show, I did introduce some more modern instruments. I mean, the other band on stage, really diverse group of instrumentalists. There was a Japanese koto player. The koto is a multi-stringed horizontal harp type instrument that you can bend. You may be familiar with it. It's got movable bridges, but it was described to us by the lady who plays it. His name slipped my mind temporarily. As a dragon. The body is the body of the dragon, and this part is the mouth of the dragon. So it was so interesting that's how the Japanese see this instrument, but and it being a show about Norse culture as well. We had the koto. We had a harpist as well, playing a modern orchestral pedal harp. I had an Indian singer, an electronic musician, and that they're a group who operate independently. So we joined with them as well. I had my contrabass clarinet, and we had lots of other animal skin drums. And we used a lot of metal work as well, which made it sound a bit like a foundry, and things like shield bosses that hadn't been attached to shields that produce interesting noises instead of modern cymbals.
Gosh, I mean, set that. I guess kind of like my naive mind, just like, okay, you get the musicians and then you start writing the music. But then I guess when it is music of such a time period with such kind of like significance and obviously a lack of knowledge to a certain degree in certain places, because we sadly don't know a lot. I think generally thinking about the instruments first makes the most sense now. Now that
Well,
you've explained it all.
yeah, well, they picked the right person in that sense as well, because I am by trade, I'm a multi-instrumentalist, and I work with palettes of sound all the time with every artist I work with and collaborate with. I don't turn up with my instrument and then we go from there. I have hundreds of instruments. I'm always collecting, especially being one of my main things being as percussionist. You're always collecting because there's so many percussion instruments from around the world. So you're always collecting instruments and the skills to play them. But being someone who hits things and blows things as well, yeah, it's usually one of the first things I have to establish when I'm working with someone. What's the palette going to be? Yeah, it's very exciting. It's what I do. So it's a lovely role that was given to me for this show.
So you mentioned how the lyrics for the musical pieces that you made was Old Norse and also sayings from Odin's words of wisdom, sayings of the High One, the Havamal, I'm assuming, or if it's a different set of texts altogether.
Yeah, I mean, because I was researching so many things in quite an intense period, I was researching the Viking shields that I built. I went in as deep as I could about the what we know about how they were decorated, how they were constructed, and so when I wanted to use ancient Norse language in lyrics, I went to one of the greatest resources we have, YouTube, and there's you probably familiar with him, as I forget his name as well now. It's a professor who lives in America.
Jackson Crawford.
Yes, that's right, Jackson Crawford.
I'm familiar with him. I haven't yet watched many of his YouTube videos simply because he's got that many, and I don't know where to begin. But I do know he is definitely the top dog, so to speak, about when it comes to Old Norse language.
Yeah, so when I started to look around for help, I came across him very quickly, and some really useful videos about what we can garner about how it might have been pronounced, and he talks a lot about Icelandic language being the closest that we can assume that it sounded like. And so there's some really useful videos where he teaches how to pronounce certain syllables, and the verses that he was using in those particular videos happened to be incredibly poignant and relevant to the moments that I was trying to accompany in the show. So there's a very famous quote from the Wisdom of Odin, I think, is people die, your animals die, your crops die, and one thing I can tell you that does remain after you die is your reputation and your deeds done when you are alive. It translates something along those lines. But it's such a lovely phrase, so it became the main refrain in the funeral procession of King Healfdane, and it's do your fair, do your friend, do your Skjoldr it sama. Excuse my pronunciation. I mean, it's I've tried to remember it as much as I can from Jackson Crawford, but and then I made the chorus out of modern Icelandic, because then after those words that are about a man's deeds, a person's deeds when they're alive, I just made the chorus refrain. He was a good king, Skjöldr Konungr, and so I got all these actors and opera singers who were in the rehearsals, who were much better at singing than me, to learn this stuff, and then they're brilliant. They're also brilliant. They just sang it in the procession with us, and Yeah, it really worked. I never really. It's interesting how you get led down a certain path by a project where I never thought about trying to sing in Old Norse before. But with resources like YouTube there and the generosity of people's contributions to platforms like that, you can learn so much if you want to. It's all out there.
Well, that's really impressive, and it just shows a great level of dedication to the cause as well. I've only ever experienced Old Norse, or possibly Icelandic at least, sung maybe twice in my life. The first was when I was fortunate enough to go to the Great Viking Banquet the Jorvik Viking Festival puts on every year. This is going back pre-COVID, maybe 2018. And it was the year Einar Selvik was in York and having a big talk show concert type thing, but he was also performing in the finale, and he happened to be at the banquet and decided to bring some of his instruments and do a bit of a solo for us all, which was mesmerizing, enchanting, and made the thing. And he kind of like, as well as singing kind of like Old Norse, I assumed, by himself, but he also kind of like used a goat horn for some kind of like melodic moans and that kind of thing. And then the other time I've experienced was more of as an ensemble, as a choir, like the choir you were working with in Beowulf, was when I went to see the Coppergate Woman performed in York, which was a community performance, and that was a couple of years after COVID had freed up everyone, and that was a mesmerising tale about Norse mythology in York and history, and even the impact of COVID, ironically enough. But it launched with the choir unseen, but you could hear them all singing in Old Norse, and you got subtitles on the screen, and it was so hypnotic, immersive. It gave me goosebumps. But to have any song be entirely in Old Norse, I think definitely kind of not only stretches the vocal cords, I assume, but also stretches the mind, and that having to learn the language and how to sing it with the melody and not just say it for pronunciation's sake. So I salute you all. Because it's a very tricky language to learn, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we did our best. I certainly wouldn't. I think I really enjoy listening to other languages, even if I can't understand them. I enjoy just listening to passers-by speaking language that I don't understand, because I hear, as a musician, I think I hear other languages as music. So when I want to try and learn, often I come to other languages through lyrics and music, and I'm able to learn. For example, I spent a lot of time in Cuba, and I learned a lot of Cuban songs, kind of almost like parrot fashion, by just copying the originals, and then through that and learning to sing it quite fluently, but not necessarily know what all the words are saying. You gradually garner, you gradually pick up what words you're saying. So I've done that with a number of languages, with Spanish, Cuban Spanish, and with Turkish. I've learned a fair bit, quite a lot of Turkish tunes, and then a little bit about the Turkish language as a result, and again, Old Norse. I find it much more effective than how I was. People tried to teach me French at school, for example. I did that for 5 years in the classroom and completely failed to learn anything at all because, there's maybe more to do with my attention span than anything else, maybe. But yeah, I mean, different ways of learning work better for different people, don't they?
So you formed a band, you'd find the instruments. How did it go for you in terms of writing the music and the songs and choosing those lyrics? And did it take a long time? Did you have an idea?
Well, I was given sort of storyboard moments in the show that would definitely need something from us, and then I started from the drums upwards. Don't have many of the drums here. There's a Shaman's drums there. That's one of the drums we use. But one of the main drums is a very large. It's sort of shaped like it's the size of a Brazilian samba surdo, but it's It's a
Okay.
wooden drum and it's rope tensioned and it's got furry animal skin heads on it, so it doesn't really sound like a surdo, but it's a big bass animal skin drum, very kind of boom, very deep and very effective. So just started with that, and I also started, one of my principles being that so much of the music that we're used to engaging with in our age is based around the limitations of what would fit on a 7-inch disc spinning at 45 RPM, which is generally 3.5 minutes, you know, the 7-inch single. And because pop culture is very much based around recorded music structurally, most things are about that long. And I just thought, well, that's because of the limitations of the format, but it became so ingrained in how we absorb a lot of music, so that development within a piece of music has to happen quite quickly, and all the things that are going to happen have to happen quite quickly. And I just thought, well, that didn't exist at all. So one of my principles was that the music would be quite hypnotic, drony, and to modern ears potentially boring because nothing happens for a long time, because it doesn't need to. It's not about quick development and here's the next bit of musical information. So I sort of deliberately made it repetitive so that it was hypnotic in the percussion, and so you've got these repeated percussive phrases with the horns blaring over the top, and I just recorded it on my laptop in the next room here, actually, track by track, just built it up. And then I had Laura, the violinist, the tal harper player, she came over and brilliantly recorded a bunch of stuff and did some stuff. She actually lives in York, and she was recording it at home as well and sending me stuff across the internet to put into it. Yeah, I sort of, with Laura's help, I made the tracks mostly on my own, and with her playing that instrument. You know, because I play wind instruments, I was able to record the horns. I think I got some from Sally as well, but although I didn't play these in the show, I was able to kind of record them and then take them to the first rehearsals and play them to Chloe and Jamie, and yeah, they were received really well. And that was when they said, right, can you do the whole show?
It's a sign of your talent, definitely a sign of your talent, because to write anything, I think, creatively is not always as easy as people think. Because I have a little bit of a background in creative writing, and that was part of my degree, and I could write stories for ages, but I could not do poetry. I could not do poetry that rhymed or not rhymed even. It was always a challenge. So how long did you guys have for rehearsal time? Was it quite a short rehearsal window before the actual live promenade performance?
It was really, all the 5 musicians, including myself, on our side of the stage, and the other musicians, all the other actors. Such a big production. Getting that number of people together at the same time is nigh on impossible. So initially there was a big flurry of activity towards getting the promotional material ready and done, and because of the way I dress and my hair and stuff, Chloe decided she wanted me to be on the poster as well. So there was right, we need to do this photo shoot. Can you get any of your members of the band to kind of get into costume and come and meet us up at Huddersfield Castle? We're going to do this photo shoot. So managed to get Sally and Laura to come, and yeah, we had an afternoon up there. That was quite early on. We got that done, and then I don't think I actually managed to get together with the band before we even went into the proper rehearsals. I remember sending them out the material and saying, like, just listen to this as much as you can. In my mind, you're going to be playing these instruments at this part of the show, and then when we get up here, I'm going to make you play the timpani and the snare drum, and I'm going to make you do this and that. But just think about how that might work. And so it was quite organic. It's just, I mean, it's my perfect process, and with a production like this, an artistic endeavor, so much of the time the process of creating it and coming together with other creatives is as exciting, if not more exciting, than the final performance. The creative process is so enjoyable, and fulfilling and thrilling, and to answer your question as well, we were sort of working out how we were going to play the music at the very same time in the same room that the actors were going, how is this going to play out? And I by that stage maybe made 2 or 3 out of a dozen shields that I was going. They were starting to experiment with how they were going to be used, and the props and the I mean, I came to rehearsal and they had some like for Beowulf's sword, they had some sort of kind of plastic sword off the internet. You know, they had what they could get hold of. You know, and the part of me was just going, well, that's not good enough. I can help with that. So, I mean, my partner will attest to the fact that I turned the house into a forge for a couple of months. I literally made the fire pit in the garden a forge by connecting it to a pipe and a hairdryer, so I could get it really hot. And so I was making the shield bosses, and I don't know. I mean, it was such an enjoyable time. I can't tell you, because it engaged so many of my loves: music, leatherwork, which I sort of gradually got better and better at over the years, and woodwork, metalwork, just making stuff in general.
It all feeds into it, because if you're juggling so much, it's amazing that you did have time to even rehearse, even if it was whether it was on site or in situ, like nights building up to the event itself, because of course it was a moving performance. So you at some point would have had to, I presume, like maybe walk the route just to work out where you need to be, where so and so needs to be, where such and such needs to be.
Yeah, early on, Chloe said, "Oh, this is where the that bit's going to be," and we'll come out onto the street where taxis and buses were pulling up outside McDonald's, and she said, "Oh, this is going to be here." It's very difficult to imagine while the road isn't closed. Oh, you were going to walk here to here, and the horn's going to blare for here, and you'll get a reply from down at the church from that horn. I just had to take her word for it at that point, because you just sort of stood in the middle of modern day Huddersfield thinking, okay, well, I believe you. Let's make it happen.
So as well as kind of like your amazing musical and proper costume contributions to the show, did you also get obviously a preview of the entire performance script itself, or did you just know which scenes at which point your band was to strike up and contribute?
No, you have to. I had updated scripts coming to me. Every other day it would change, and I'd get a whole new one, and
Blimey.
I'd have to print it out and mark it up. And I use coloured pens a lot to indicate to myself what I need to do in these situations, because otherwise it won't speak to me. But because after our initial involvement, just as the Viking funeral procession band, we became involved in the whole show. Because me and my partner Mandy, who was also in the band, Mandy was like, if you see any photos of the group, she's the shaman.
Cool. She had a very cool headdress.
This drum here. Because we have a background, we have a duo called Architects of Roslin, for which a lot of the work we've done is film soundtracks and installations for artists. background music or accompanying music. We ended up doing a lot of that kind of stuff throughout the show. So not specific pieces of music, but cushions of sound, gongs or electronic sounds, or well, actually, a lot of the electronic drones were handled by Duncan, who was in the other band on the other side of the stage. We became one big band, really. But we were providing music that interjected in the script almost throughout. There were moments where we wouldn't be doing anything, but in rehearsals, we're page turning and going, right, you're got something coming up here, or you need to accompany this when this person comes in. We've got a cue. We talk about it in terms of cues. Right, next cue is this. You need to get that instrument ready, and so yeah, we were pretty stuck to the script, as the actors were as well, through rehearsals. There wasn't a lot of time to just sort of sit there and say, I've got 20 minutes till the next song. We were in most of it, doing something most of the time. Yeah,
that's remarkable. I have to confess to viewers and listeners that I was an unlucky soul that I didn't get to go see it all live. I had plans, I had intentions, I was aware of it. Being from Huddersfield, I was aware Beowulf was coming to the town. And did I get my ticket in time? No. By the time I got around to getting my ticket, it was sold out. And so some of my colleagues were going to go as a group. Out of the four of us, only one of us got her ticket, and then she didn't want to go in the round. So it's Loki's luck that has struck me down from missing out this remarkable experience, because I have got some familiarity with Beowulf, not very deep because I didn't study it in literature in any level or form, but I have heard it recited like from the poetic original source live from the Jorvik Viking Festival in many years gone by, and a whole evening in like St. Helen's Church by candlelight, hearing this man recite it all from memory was just mesmerizing and immersive, and it shows the power of storytelling orally in its own art. So I was always curious, having not seen the live performance of this, how closely it kind of like, whether it captured any of the poetic nature or whether it turned it all into prose, or whether it was, because the trailer I've seen, that Proper Job Theatre I put up, and I will be popping the link down in the description below, and it'll be popping up at the end of the video if you're watching on YouTube, makes it seem very energetic, very, not want to say acted out, but energetic is the only way I can describe it, because there's so many costumes and actors and people moving and doing certain gestures, and of course because it's a promenade performance, they literally move around and utilize the space more. So I was always curious how that influenced the script or not. I know you weren't directly involved in the script, but it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on it all.
Well, it was such a complex endeavor in terms of the amount of contributions that were coming in, because I think 5 or 6 different writers took on chunks of the script, including Ian McMillan and some other local young writers from different cultural backgrounds in Huddersfield, took on different sections of it. But until I knew who'd done which bit, I couldn't tell, because it really flowed very well from one writer to the other. And of course, I haven't mentioned as well, apart from the Viking band and the other diverse band on the other side of the stage, we had a brilliant composer of the big songs, some of the big moments, the opening songs, and Beowulf's funeral song, and the Mead Hall songs were written by a brilliant composer called Leighton Jones, who was playing piano and also the organ at the end. Was really fabulous. We were playing along with the organ. So his songs, as much as the different parts of the script, had a big influence on how it built up as a narrative. Yeah, and they framed it. We had sort of 3 of the characters, the actors, were narrators. and they would appear at certain points and I guess help the audience understand what was happening as a narrator would. So yeah, I think it's very cleverly put together. All credit to Jamie and Chloe for making such a complex endeavor just come together brilliantly. And I think that's as much about choosing the right people who are good at collaborating and working together and good at accepting other ideas. And I found that when being in bands and you're looking for new personnel in a band, it's not always about what instrument they play or a specific instrument you're looking for. It can be more about a person. We want that person. I don't care if they don't play the instrument that we actually need. It's just going to be great because they're a great performer or they're a great collaborator. And it's all credit to the proper job team that they chose really well. I meant to dig out a program. I think it's in that room there. Actually, I've got a program with all the writers, and perhaps I'll send you some.
Please do.
Some photographs of the details about all those people that were involved, if you like.
Yeah, because it's kind of like I've been aware of yourself specifically because, as you mentioned, you have a trombonist called Sally. I met her on a creative industries course a couple of years ago, and she clicked that I liked Vikings, and she then opened up about being part of your band and said, "Oh, I should totally speak to you." And it's just been a case of waiting for the Norns to get us connected, and here we are. Here we are now at last. Because of course, kind of Ian McKellen's name was greatly promoted as part of the promotion overall, I think, for Beowulf, because he's commonly known as the Bard of Barnsley. Coming from South Yorkshire more than the West Yorkshire where Huddersfield is based. And it actually really impressed me that the event sold out, because certainly West Yorkshire doesn't have as much of a proud claim to anything Viking compared to North Yorkshire, let alone South Yorkshire, because of course York has it all, because it was the centre of the Danelaw. But the Vikings definitely did traverse through these parts. They just didn't leave as much of a mark. And it has always left me curious as to how much of the audience went in with any knowledge of Beowulf, or whether it was just the kind of like the Vikinginess or the Norseness that appealed to them all.
I don't know. I mean, they must have done a good job in promoting it. I do, incidentally, off the back of something you just said, there was you may be able to shed some light on this. There was a story going around at the time we were making the show that the word Huddersfield came from Huddersfield, and Uda was a Viking who owned land in that area, and it took its name from the land that Uda the Viking had in that area. I don't know whether it's true or not.
It could be. Strangely enough, when I was doing my degree at the Huddersfield University, I did my sociolinguistics module. I chose to look at the origins and meaning of place names. And thankfully, I didn't have to do much research because there was a place name society, and I believe they're still going. And they had all these journals in the library. So I literally just pilfered all their journals and got a map of where I lived, and then including a bit of North Yorkshire, and just looked at all these places. And I know that Thorpe and by name, so kind of like Skjoldthorpe or Grimsby, for example, in my more native home of North Yorkshire, they're known as secondary settlements. So that's what they were founded after the Vikings came and settled with a great heathen army, or a great Viking army, because of course the Anglo-Saxons already had the best spots. They were always by the rivers, by the best pasture lands. So the Vikings had to settle around, because they didn't really go out and kick everyone out of everyone's village, because that was just more bloodshed than it was worth. But in terms of Huddersfield, I know it linguistically certainly does sound, to my very untrained and inexperienced ears, like Huddersfield or Uddersfield could be Norse, but then of course Saxons and Norse names are also very similar. But Thwaite, I've heard, could be Norse. Of course, we've got Slathwaite or Slowett, depending on how you pronounce it. The difference between South and West Yorkshire there. Although they do say Slowett on the trains, if you ever get the train to Slathwaite. but there is a few. There is definitely name evidence and place names of West Yorkshire of the Norse coming through, but there's also evidence of Celts, Irishmen, of course, even Norse. So Norman is what I meant to say, Norman. So it's kind of like, because England is such a mongrel country, because we literally have had everyone and anyone come over and leave their mark. It's hard to say for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I mentioned Skagglethorpe earlier. That's the village nearest to my home village of Setchington in North Yorkshire. And Setchington is definitely Anglo-Saxon, but Skagglethorpe is definitely Norse. And they're only a mile, well, maybe a 2-mile walk. I'm a slow walker apart, but it just shows kind of like how nearby they settled. And most of the time, it was people referring to places that named them more than the people who lived in that particular place. Like, oh yeah, you need to go to kind of like Huddersfield. It's down that road, down that trek, over that hill, and that's how Huddersfield became known. Like, of course, Jorvik York. It had so many names. It was named as Uferwick before it became Jorvik, because the Norse dropped the Ufer out, because that was something else entirely. But yeah, as I said, I'm pleased it was a sellout, because it does credit to you and everyone else who was involved in the show and made it the most spectacular night that I will always regret not being part of.
I think, to go back to your question, I think there, like myself and you, a lot of people have intrigue about Vikings and Norse culture, partly because obviously we were colonized by Scandinavians, and it's part of our history, partly because it was at that point where they certainly weren't making written records, so there's a mysteriousness to it where we don't really know a lot, and what we do know is really from archaeology and some cultures who were using written language to record things. So there's Romans and Arabic references, and I think one of the most famous depictions of a Viking funeral is from an Arab text, and it's where, if you see it in films or it's used in stories, I think people often tend to refer to that particular depiction of an eyewitness account of a Viking warrior's funeral. You see it time and again. But because it's got this air of mystery to it, and I don't know. I mean, when I was at school and we'd go to the library, I was always looking up weapons and stuff. I don't know whether other kids my age were, but I just found it all very interesting. And also how the way we think about history is often big turnaround events are defined by not huge groups of mostly men being violent towards one another in a field somewhere, and the outcome of which determines the future of hundreds of thousands of people. It's always fascinated me how things play out.
Don't worry, because that was going to lead on to my next question. Was kind of like, obviously you founded this Norse band specifically for the Beowulf performance, but the fact that someone knew to go to you for Norse music specifically indicates to me that you had an interest in Norse stuff generally before then, if not just Norse music. So I was going to ask kind of like how you first got an interest, if not a curiosity, in anything Norse.
As far back as I can remember, I've had an interest in not only history, but particularly how moments in history are defined by battles and these moments where armies come together. I wasn't really allowed to have even toy weapons when I was a kid.
No.
So when I had a kid, my boy, I think I just decided to let him have what I didn't have. So, and also indulge my passion for making stuff. So this is actually the first Viking shield I made, and it's, as you can see, it's tiny. It's a child's one, but I did hand hammer the boss and paint it and do the handle and everything. And I made him a little sword as well. It's there somewhere. And I think it, really intensified, obviously, this interest when I was invited to do the Beowulf show. But it's so multifaceted. My interest in it and the different places that spark my attention. But it just mounts up over time. I can't think of a single moment, but I do, partly because of the way I dress and I braid my hair. I've always done that for years. I have very long hair, and I don't have time to. It's quite fine. So if it wasn't braided, I'd have to brush it 2 or 3 times a day, or it's boring. If I braid it, it's been like that for 6 weeks. It needs redoing, but I like having long hair, but I don't like having to deal with it. Which I think is quite similar to Norse warriors had. They were very keen on combs and hygiene and the beard combs, and always had a beard, and because of the way I look, and one of the bands I play in, I became known as the Techno Viking.
As much as I know it's a pipe dream, if anyone was ever to take up and resume production of this amazing Beowulf show and cast and get you guys performing it again, I would say York would definitely be the ones to approach, because it would be awesome in York, and probably pull up even bigger crowds. I mean, imagine taking that into York Minster. Forget about little Huddersfield Church, St. Peter's. Go into York Minster with it. It'll be amazing. And then maybe I'll actually see it.
It was mooted to go to York. The Minster wouldn't have it, but there was another big church in York who was under consideration.
Oh yes, they've got several.
Because the assembling of the Viking band was so enjoyable. The process for us 5 as musicians, we resolved to continue activity with that band, and whilst we haven't performed since then, we have recorded some stuff, particularly Laura, again, the harp player, has been really helpful. And I've made a promo film which I was in what's it called, a town in Ireland, Waterford.
Oh yeah.
That's got a very strong Viking history, and I decided to take a massive suitcase of Viking costumes from Beowulf, our costumes from the band, with us, in order to do a photo shoot, and make the members of that band, which happened to include Sally as well, but members of other bands, make them dress up in the Viking band's costumes and do a bit of a shoot so I could make a promo film. So I went off into the countryside looking for standing stones and really good places to shoot. Meanwhile, one of the bands texted me from the centre of town outside our hotel going, "You do realise there's a Viking ship here in Waterford on the quay, don't you?" So I rushed back in, and so we you could just climb in and out of it. I mounted all our shields on the side of it, and we got some great footage, and I made a little film like that. But the idea was that we would continue and offer ourselves to people for pagan weddings, hand fastings, mead halls, funerals, whatever people wanted. And we already have this very kind of ceremonial, dramatic music from the show that we can use. And I also thought, if people booking a band often want 2 moments, they want that ceremonial moment if it's a wedding or a party, and then they want to have a dance. So I thought, well, we need to learn to play some music with these instruments that people recognize as well, and not just the theme from Vikings off Netflix, and not just, what's that track, Healfdane, called
all I can think of is Wardruna, but I know there are more.
Yeah. So as well as things like that niche, but some people might recognise. Thinking, well, what sort of music would people be into? Who are the sorts of people who are likely to book a Viking band in the first place? And I thought, well, maybe people are into rock, indie, goth sort of stuff. So I started to compile a list of potential tracks that we might try and play with our Viking instruments, that we could potentially apply to a dance floor set. Essentially, people an environment where people could dance to tunes that they recognise. So we started recording some of those, Sisters of Mercy and The Cult and Velvet Underground, and yeah. So I'm going to continue doing that, so that we have a sort of a show reel that we can offer to people, and all the members of the band are really excited about the idea that we Beowulf wasn't the end of that band, but you know, because everybody is has very busy lives as self-employed gun for hire musicians, it's not come to fruition yet, and I started to work on it, and then I had another amazing project put in front of me and went on tour for a couple of years around the world. So I'm just sort of coming back to doing that now. I've got a studio space, and yeah, so it's not the end of the story for the band was called Skjöldr Konungr, Shield King at the time, but I've been thinking about changing the name because people don't have to say it. But we'll see.
Oh, well, I certainly hope you and the band get to perform an audience somewhere at some point soon. And if you do, let me know and I'll try and sneak in.
I'm sure we will do. How and when that happens, it remains to be seen. But yeah, I'm confident I'm going to make it happen someday.
Well, if anything, as you say, we need to find a wonderful purpose for your many weapons and shields, and I can see a helmet poking out behind there as well, and of course all the leather work that you've put so much effort and dedication and time in to making it. As much as they are pretty to look at, they do need to be shown off, because they're just so awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I just take what try to use what resources I had available. I mean, the helmet was this was actually a get it out. Oops, everything collapsed. This was actually a late medieval open-faced sallet, an archer's sallet. So it had a metal plates down the back here. This face mask wasn't here. It was open-faced. It had a sort of crest on the front here. And I removed the neck plates, and I made this. I hammered this steel mask based on some of the Viking helmets that have been discovered, and added the chainmail on the back. So I made this for Beowulf to wear, even though I think I might have worn it in the parade. So I used a helmet that wasn't from remotely the right period, but sort of tried to make it turn it into something of the right period. Yeah, I mean, I think
it shows great skill. It really does.
It's again, I think that at the time they were, with the budget that they had, they had some sort of kind of plastic helmet off the internet for the show, and I was just kind of looking at what they had going, I think we can do better than that. I've got this, and maybe I could convert it to that. And so yeah, I've still got the old bits of the this is something I bought on a whim years and years ago as being an archer and interested in history. I bought this open-faced sallet, but yeah, I've never worn it anywhere or done anything with it. So often I find that things that I collect, I did it for a reason that I didn't know about that happens in the future.
So what was making the shields like? Because I'm assuming that involves the metalwork. I'm presuming the wood to make the base, and of course a lot of them covered with leather as well.
Yeah, so I did quite a lot of research into. It was absolutely fascinating. I discovered a lot of information that I didn't know. Some of the bosses I hammered myself. Some of them I bought already made. Some of them had already been used in battles and have dents in them. But wooden boards, and this one you can see I've it's not actually made in strakes like they were originally, but I've made it look like it is by painting, staining it in colours, so it looks like it, but it's plywood. Just and I gave each shield a name for during the show that was related to the Beowulf production, but I found out lots of fascinating things about how they were often faced completely in hide or in canvas. So I faced mine in canvas because you put it on, you paint it on wet, you glue it on, and then it shrinks, so it pulls the wood pieces together, making it stronger. Same with leather, because I often work with goatskin drums. I know that when you fit a new skin to a drum, you soak it first, and as it dries, it contracts. So if you face the whole thing in leather, when it's wet, as it dries, it pulls everything together. These ones are actually, they've just got hide all the way around the outside, which again was sort of to hold them together. But that's quite a slow process because you have to make holes through the wood all the way around and stitch it on by hand using two needles. So you're using leatherwork locked stitching process where you've got two needles and you're going through back and forth. So I did all of those by hand as well. This is something I really found fascinating to discover, these toggles. So they discovered in archaeological remains of some Viking shields that they had these holes in very specific places on the shield that through experimentation they decided that they must have been for a certain use, and that is that it wasn't necessarily just to have a strap that could be shortened where you could sling it over your back, but actually it could be held in a position where if you're holding your shield out for an extended period of time, it's quite heavy. You know, it's really difficult to hold it out there for that period of time. So if it's braced against your body with a strap, you've got a triangulation point where your body is taking the strain of it as well. So it's not just your arm having to hold it out there. And they deduced that the position that these holes were in and the remains of these, these leather toggles are just like a stripped tapered piece of leather rolled up, stabbed through, and then the pointed but put through itself, and you drag it through the shield. So it's really very, very strong, but it's not heavy. There's no metalwork involved in attaching the strap. And then you do the very same thing again, make an even smaller toggle here. It's a really ingenious method, and I've used them on costumes as well. Instead of buttons, you can use these handmade leather toggles. So yeah, it was a pathway of discovery, researching all of this, finding out lots of really fascinating things about what we can deduce about how the shields were made. And then it came on to decorating them. And so again, I was looking at contemporary depictions of when the Vikings arrived here or there, to places where people used to document things. So it's Constantinople or it's in the Rus or Arabic lands. There were specific depictions of Viking warriors, Norse warriors with their shields, and they're quite accurately drawn of what was on the face of the shields. And something that crops up quite a lot is this. It's not on this one. It's on some of the other pictures I've sent you. A lot of the ones I made for Beowulf, and particularly Beowulf's warriors, when they come in, they've all got this triple dot motif It's these three dots. So, and when you go to if you go to the Jorvik Viking Fest and you see hundreds of people in warrior costumes and carrying shields, you'll see that three dot motif quite a lot because it is one of the most famous recorded contemporary artistic impressions of a Viking shield, and it probably denotes I'm with this group of people if it's two separate Viking tribes fighting one another, and everyone looks like a Viking. How do you know who you've got to distinguish who you're fighting?
Yeah.
So I think motives on the shields are quite a good way of doing it. But there is a website I found as well which lists all of the known contemporary depictions of Viking shield decorations that we know about, including the sort of fan shapes, the spiral shapes. So I went quite deep on that as well because I just wanted to be as accurate as I could, which all that was really, really interesting as well. Yeah, I tried to give each shield a personality. Each one's got a name. Each one's got a different handle, and some of them are lighter than others. And I called them the sports shields. I gave them to some of the smaller people in the cast. Some of them are really heavy. They've got really heavy bosses, and I'd give them to the bigger people in the cast. And I made a specific one for Beowulf, but a lot of them are hanging in the garage in a little shield wall.
Well, that is, I think, besides kind of like your musical talent and expertise in the show, making all those shields is just remarkable. It really, really is.
I can't tell you how much I enjoyed it. I find, aside from the music being the main thing I do, making stuff is the other thing that I enjoy almost, maybe if not as much, because it's I find it very meditative, meaning you sort of forget about everything else. You're just in the thing that you're making. You're completely focused, and nothing else matters. And it's very therapeutic. I think making stuff. It's really, really enjoyed it. All this stuff. I made all these belts for different members of the cast, and quite a lot of these just bits of armor with metal plates on and Norse writing and runes, and I mean, actually in the show we had fake tattoos that we drew on each other, and I put runes on my hands, and at the time it was sort of Thor and Odin or whatever in with our runes we were writing on our hands, but I liked it how it looked so much that I ended up getting tattoos. But
nice.
These are not rather than Thor and Odin, this is Idun, and this is Bragi.
So why did you choose those two then?
Well, Idun is as far as you may be able to expand on this, but as far as I know, she's the goddess of youthfulness and joy and abundance, and also, as importantly, her husband Bragi, being the original Skjöld poet.
Oh yes.
Musician, is the god of music and poetry, which of course is what I'm all about. So I just thought they looked really cool. So I
like that. I like that. It's nice touch. It's a lot nicer than having love and hate on one hand.
Well, it also, because people have tattoos regarding important things in their life, and for me, the few that I do have mark really significant, exciting moments or important moments. And this was around my 50th birthday, and Beowulf was so exciting and was such a important show and moment to be involved in. It's kind of a record of that.
Well, that's a remarkable memento, not to mention all the props you've retained and kept so well over these years since the original show. I'm afraid we are out of time, but I have really, really enjoyed our chat, our conversation. We've touched on a lot, and I hope, if anything, this has made other people want to see the show as much as I did when it was on. And we can all hope and look forward and keep an eye out online for when you and the band come out of the nation and bring all your wonderful talent and music and Old Norse singing prowess to the stage.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, it's just lovely to for someone to invite me, give me the opportunity to ramble on about all the things that I was lucky enough to be involved in around the production and working with such a brilliant group of people. I mean, it really was one of those moments where lots of lovely energy came together to create something bigger than we could have hoped for. Yeah.
Not that we know who wrote Beowulf, but hopefully the very unique style and the energy and the liveliness, literally the life that you put into the performance through your music and the actors and the other orchestra and choir involved, excuse me, will have done them proud, because I will always regret not seeing it. But I really appreciate reliving it all through your unique experience and involvement, and I am just in awe of your talent and passion and skill in so many ways. And I wish you and the rest of the band best of luck, and I will hope to see you all perform one day soon.
I really hope so, even if it's just so that you can see it.
Absolutely, just so I can see the costumes and instruments in real life. But thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, Howard.
Very welcome. Thanks, Becky. Thanks for having me.